All right, never mind.
They're gonna miss it. They're lost, not mine. All right, everybody. I am the Brony Critic, and I will welcome you guys to the Brony Critic's Guide to Criticism. This is part of my ongoing. Every year, I do a Brony Critic's Guide to something. Before I,
so we don't have to.
No. It's not cool to like him anymore. Haven't you heard?
He's an asshole.
But before I do that,
Don't sign a bad.
I got a new book from over at the Traveling Pony
But
Museum.
you got one of the worst ones.
What?
Past tense is bad.
So what? I collect these things. At a certain point, there's no room to, like, there's a difference between judging and like just being being awful, as we'll get into later. But that fresh new book smell. All right, so I am, of course, the Brony Critic. My particular focus, as far as an analyst goes, is I focus on fandom reviews. My real interest is on... Oh, hey, am I recording? Cool. All right. Well, my focus is on fandom reviews and criticism. I review and explore fan fiction, fan creation, stuff like that. I listen to a lot of music. My focus and my aim has always been to try to promote the community and fan creators. Try to get them more attention and kind of motivate them to make more unique content. Outside of the fandom, I am a studio technician at a Dayton TV station. I am also a professionally trained film critic. I graduated from Wright State University with a degree in film theory, history, and criticism. I know, I went to college to make money, right? No, that's her job. She went for web design?
Web development, computer science.
Computer science. So she's the one who's going to make money. I'm going to be the starving artist. All right. I have about 7 years of experience in film, television, and radio in some manner or capacity. I also am a bit of a voice actor and a writer, though not really professionally. I am a member of Fiara the Tank Girl's Roundtable podcast, which is on her Twitch stream live every Saturday night around 7 o'clock Eastern Time. I am also the primary film critic for the Emerald Rangers Review website, where I will release written film reviews or editorials every Friday. The goals of this panel. This has honestly been a panel I've wanted to do for a long time. Because I have a real passion for criticism. I see a lot of the advantages of it, but we live in a society that desperately, violently opposes what criticism is actually about. And so what I'm hoping is that I can use my experience, my personal stories, obviously give some fun, interesting takes and perspectives to help you guys learn how to critique better if you want to get into analysis, or even if you're just as a consumer of media or a creator, how you guys can use and read criticism to enhance your own consumption of media. We're going to have question time. It's a very short...
I'm just saying you're kind of fading in and out.
Fading it. You know what?
Oh, now your screen's gone. Come on. There it goes.
Yay! All right, let me try to put the mic in front of me the whole time. Better?
Yes.
All right. I want to be able to kind of help you guys to, as consumers especially, being able to discern and properly express to people why you have certain pros or cons to the things that you consume. Because at some fundamental level, criticism is, persuasive speaking. Now, what is criticism? Usually there's about 4 images in a person's mind when you say the word critic.
What you just said. You forgot the AVGN.
Yeah, out of those 4, only one of them is actually a critic.
It's the guy whose head up his ass.
You're a creator, aren't you?
I am a theater major, so maybe.
Okay, yeah, no, that's sort of the thing. That's sort of the thing. That's part of my. I'm gonna be funny, or try to be funny. It's 12:30 in the. It's 12:30 in the afternoon. I'm sorry. I'm tired here, man. I was up till 4 last night. Miss Brony was throwing cupcakes in this room. Like, I'm not gonna miss that. All right, so a critic is fundamentally an individual who analyzes the merits and flaws of a cultural or social work for the purposes of deconstruction and improvement. Examples of critics would be individuals like Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert. They're kind of the quintessential example. Based on looking at some of the ages of the people in this room, I bet most of you have heard those names but never actually watched them. I think a few of you have probably might be old enough to remember, Siskel and Ebert, the TV show. On YouTube, though, there is Jeremy Johns, who is a great example of a critic. But it can even be something as simple as a teacher who's personally helping you on a class project. They, in a way, are a critic. Because fundamentally, what a critic is all about, wrong button. Critics are about improvement. They're about deconstruction for the purposes of advancing a project. And most critics are professionally trained, sometimes receiving years of schooling, but criticism as itself is just a practice-learned skill. What the professionally trained people do is that when I went to film school, what I did is I watched movies all day long. And then we would write papers or talk about those movies. And we had to explain what about that movie worked or what didn't. And so it would be writing 2 or 3 papers about the movies we've seen. And we saw a lot of movies. Some are good. Most are artistically good. Few were just bad. Like, I honestly wish I could have just left that day. Sometimes I did just leave that day. But a critical education just involves mostly just written and speaking skills and researching past theories, past ways of thinking. There are certain modes of critical thinking. Marxist theory, feminist theory, things like that, things of that nature. And that's just ways of examining and looking at the film with regards to other films of the same genre, same type, same medium, things of that nature. And they're actually fairly easy to learn in their own time. Honestly, the best advice you can be given for anything is just experience, just practice, which we'll get into a little bit later. Now, as I stated earlier, there seems to be, at least nowadays, a negative interpretation with criticism. Yep. Those who can't do, critique. Yo, so you're a professional film critic. That means you get paid to complain, right? That's not a real job. You can go to school for that. Wait, I'm paying for your college to do that? Yes, Dad. Yes, you are. Sorry, I got lost in something. Criticism, actually, despite that idea, it plays a vital role in society, and it's a skill that everyone, creator, consumer, needs to be aware of. A critic, in the simplest terms, is a voice of the community. It's an expert that can be trusted to examine the qualities and flaws of something and inform the general public and the creator. But this can also extend way beyond art. You know, you obviously have the art critic who's going to take a look at a piece of art and explore, how it fits into the history of art and how this works into the canon of the rest of the creator's content and material. But you'll also have social critics. A social critic will take a look at various aspects of our society, elements of our culture, and explore, why is it the way it is? Is there any negatives that come about? What can be done about those sorts of things? What have other places done to deal with those issues? That in its own way is a form of criticism. at its heart, it's all about being a positive influence, about being an improvement and warning the community about less positive elements within itself. So if there is this inherent in the idea of criticism of being a positive influence, why is there such a negative perception? You know, why is it that whenever we think of criticism, it's always the dude in the back going, "This is awful, I hate it, it's not as good as the original," instead of, it could have been better, but I enjoyed what was there, it was good. And that fundamentally comes down to the difference between criticism and complaining, and the fact that the two get equated a lot. Which brings me to my first tip: constructive versus destructive. Criticism is constructive. Your intention as a critic should never, ever be to dissuade someone from creating, to persuade or to demotivate the community to make things. Whenever I critique, I never go, "You should stop making things." I can say, I can see that you like. I could see where some improvements would be. I could see that you're new to this, but I would never say, "Stop doing it." Stop it. You're not cut out for this. Just keep on watching the show. Don't write fan fiction about it. That's a terrible, terrible way of dealing things. And yet I bet most of you have read a comment on some random, unaffiliated video streaming website that has comments all over the place just like that. That is complaining. Complaining is all destructive. Its intention is to dishearten and tear down a creator. "You're awful. Go home. Kill yourself." Stuff like that. You know, you see it all the time. It's everywhere. And in our society where there's very few, like where everyone wants it to be black and white, there's a lot of gray, unfortunately, and that messes with things a lot. And it gets the two sides confused. It blurs that line between the people who genuinely want to improve the community and those who just want to whine about how it's not as good as they would have done it, as if they could do just as well. Because that's usually the most infuriating part for creators is, I'm going to complain about this thing, an animation, even though I have no experience in animation, I've never done an animation, I've never experienced it, never worked with it, but I could do better than that. Right. Thanks. Right. And honestly, that right there is what most people should try to do with criticism. You think you can do better? Practice. Try it. Go out and do something. That right there is the key of the critic. Get people to do things. Inspire and motivate people. So the critic is the complainer is gonna focus on negativity. The critic, you have to find things what you don't like about the work. That's the balance there. Because just as a critic, I'm not saying you have to constantly be positive. "Oh, that's great, that's wonderful." At that point, you're just a mom. You're not a critic. "Oh, that was wonderful, sweetie. I love the concert even though you've only been playing the instrument for a week. That was wonderful." No, you're gonna sound awful. No matter what, a kid playing an instrument for a week is gonna sound awful. We all know that. But it's all about positive delivery because a creator is going to tune out immediately anyone who is negative. If you're, it's the situation of, which of these sounds better? That sucked. And that was okay. I could see a few things where it could be improved. They're basically saying the same thing, but one sounds a lot better, and one sounds like a creator's much more willing to listen to you on it. And that is key. And another minor aspect of this is when you're talking about negatives, try to put it in terms of next time. There's nothing a creator can do about what they've created now. So you can judge on what it's doing now, but always try to frame it in terms of maybe next time you can try to do this instead. And just to, as a way of saying, I have sheer confidence that you're going to create something else again. I want you to create something else again. But maybe next time do this instead, and maybe see how it would turn out differently. Now, step 2, or tip 2. Man, I wrote that weird. Tip 2. Breaking down walls. Always keep in mind a critic's goal is to start a dialogue. If no one wants to talk with you, you're not going to convince anyone of anything. So this is important because, as I said, the world is filled with trolls. The world is filled with complainers. And so creators almost instinctually at this point put up walls. They put up barriers to keep themselves from getting insulted. But at the same time, that can sometimes wall them off to any form of legitimate criticism, and they won't want anything changed because, oh, that's just a hater. They're just a troll. I don't need to listen to them, even if that person might bring up genuinely good points. So positivity is obviously a great step for this. People like positive people. They like being around positive people. So if you come into any situation effectively going, that was great, I love that. But I can see where maybe maybe if you did this instead, that might turn out a little bit better. Maybe this character shouldn't have acted like that. I think if they had acted more like this, it might have been more in character. Situations like that. Now that's a good first start. Honestly, comedy works great too, because comedy is a de-escalator. A laughing person is much more open to suggestion. This is the key for critics, or for comedians, like George Carlin's a great example. George Carlin's key to his comedy, he's very much a social critic in the way that he behaves and the way he acts. He always has something to say about society. The way he wormed into your head was to get you laughing, was to get you to make fun of whatever it is he was criticizing, and then he'd make a point about it. But that brings us to, oh wait, no. This dude. I made a statement that the nostalgia critic is not a critic. And he isn't. He's a comedian. And here's the difference. Doug Walker's intention with the nostalgia critic is not to improve and educate and analyze, it's to entertain. He wants to make you laugh. He wants to make it funny. So he'll usually nitpick at things. Critics generally don't nitpick. That's not the point. A point of a critic is not to point out the flaws, or is not to poke at the flaws. It's to point them out and look at them as, here's an example of what we could do better next time. That's what a critic does. The nostalgia critic wants you to laugh at how stupid Battlefield Earth is. He doesn't really care in what ways we could have made it better. I don't think there really was.
Fix the camera?
Oh, yeah. Well, first would have been to balance out the camera. That would have fixed a lot of things. But Dutch angles are artsy. Oh God, when I went to film school, there were so many times where, I'd have to sit there and watch the most boring movie on the face of the planet and then listen to my teacher go, and now for the next 2 hours, we're going to talk about the historical and artistic significance of why this artist is one of the greatest in the world. And I'm just sitting there going, I would rather die.
Was that a Stanley Kubrick movie?
No, it was a French New Wave film, which I hate French New Wave. Italian neorealism is so much better than French New Wave, but all the other film students were they all wanted, and this happens a lot in film schools, they're all uppity dudes who just go, but French, and therefore superior to all other film styles. No. Having your own opinions is great in college. And that's why no one talked to me in film school, because I was the guy going, no, this is awful. This is awful, and you should all feel bad for liking it.
The movie is bad and you should feel bad.
Okay, that, again, hey, the critic who's talking about complaining about things. Yeah. No mixed messages at all. Hey, I'm only human, and I'm allowed to not like things. There's a difference. Yeah. And what am I going to do? I can't make the creators of old movies make new things. Death is precisely the point when you can no longer motivate an individual to do anything more. I'm not about to get on a copyright tangent, as I absolutely will. So comedy can be used to make a message easier to understand, but it's not the point of whatever you're doing. If you want to make someone laugh, write a comedy sketch. If you want to educate them, make it funny, but focus on the education. Now, where could you learn about these sorts of things? I know quite a few of you in here might be introverts, might not be very good at public speaking. A great place for me that I love watching is Charisma on Command on YouTube. I'm not sure how many of you guys are familiar with them. What they do is effectively they use media, like they'll use the news, or my favorite is they'll use Game of Thrones, and they'll have videos about analyzing how the characters or how different individuals, the methods they use to get across a charismatic perspective. How does Chris Evans, the way he laughs and the way he makes jokes, how does that endear him to people compared to, say, Robert Downey Jr. in movie interviews? How does Tyrion or Tywin Lannister express power in Game of Thrones? He'll analyze it and take those steps, deconstruct them, and show you how to apply them in your own life. And I really, really recommend you guys check them out, because they're also really entertaining as well, mostly just because I like watching Tyrion Lannister just beat everyone up in the Game of Thrones. Till season 7.
You mean season 8?
Season 7. He should have known something was wrong. Come on.
Yeah. Spoiler warning.
There's no spoilers there. He just should have known something was wrong. That doesn't imply anything.
There's no spoilers yet.
Isaac's dead.
Tip 3. Learn, read, watch, experience. It is all right and good to say that, oh, I just want to give my opinions on a thing, but a really great way to get a more nuanced opinion, especially because, critics are experts. Now, I say experts because fundamentally it's just having an opinion and expressing it well. But people are more likely to listen to your opinion if you know what you're talking about. So, as a film critic, I watch hundreds of movies and television shows. I've watched a lot of good movies and a lot of garbage. Yet I can only really think of 3 movies that I genuinely hate. Maybe after I can talk, if you guys want to know, I can tell you what they are afterward. But as a film critic, I've watched movies all the time. I watch TV shows all the time. Right now, I'm watching Violet Evergarden again. God, that show is awesome. Now, as a fan fiction critic or a fan critic, I also watch a ton of fan content and read a lot of fan fiction, like a lot of fan fiction. On FimFiction, my saved files accumulate to, I think, about a week solid of book material. If I were to read nonstop, I would have 7 days worth of nonstop reading material in my favorites.
Dang.
Yeah. Let me just quickly calculate that. I want to impress you all with my not life having.
Depends on what you call life.
168 hours worth, or around 168 hours worth of reading material.
Approximately.
I have no life.
Don't worry, we've all been there.
Sorry. I'm also a prodigious researcher. I'm that guy who, hey, what's this? Google, Wikipedia. Yeah, this thing is like, I have Wikipedia perpetually on tab on my Google Chrome on my phone. Also, is anyone else using Google Chrome on their phones? Has anyone noticed that they've updated Google Chrome's app recently and they have all the tabs on the bottom now?
Yes.
Yeah, no, apparently, like, the opening the multiple tab thing on Google Chrome, now they're all on the bottom row here. I keep on trying to open tabs and backspacing. I hate this thing. I hate this design. I want it old school. I miss XP. Wait, no, sorry. Damn it, my age. I'm showing my age.
I still remember 95.
God, 95 was great, wasn't it?
Sure.
Hey, come on. You'd miss XP too if you had to go through full Vista.
Oh, yeah, this was terrible.
No, I had Vista forced on me.
I had Vista in beta because my dad's had technology connection, so I had it when it was at its worst.
Stupid beach ball of death. I want the old defragmentation screen. I want to actually see that stupid green line moving through. That thing was so satisfying to watch. I actually wanted to defrag my computer. Now I just don't want to sit there going 3 hours and the ring is still there. Ring is still there. Maybe I can read. No. Phone. Yep, so criticism is persuasive writing, speaking. Watch people speak. Watch people, read other people's criticism. See the language that other critics use. And watch tons of movies. Listen to lots of music, especially for like films. Films are an all-encompassing experience. It's the thing of a film is more than just what's on the screen. It's also what's happening behind the screen. Watching behind the scenes features is amazing to kind of get a respect for just what they're going through, how much work it goes into making films, because there is no one, like anyone who says that there's like a single artist behind a film is a moron. There are hundreds of talented artists, most of whom you will never know beyond that one name in the credits, which is also why I always sit through every film, because I want to see the credit. Those people have dedicated months or years of their life to make that movie, and all they're doing is taping wires to the floor, and darn it, I was there once. I'm going to give them the attention I never got. But with all that, with all the reading, all the watching, all that, there is a downside.
You have no luck.
No. I am an awful, terrible, disgusting person to watch movies with. Because I'm sorry, what were you saying?
This is true.
My girlfriend's saying, this is true. Yeah, no, my family outright refuses to watch movies with me because I watch so many movies I laugh at jokes before they're said because I've seen the setup for that joke 100 times. I will sit there going, okay, I know where this is going. 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 And like, wait a minute. Or the worst example was, this is a great story. I was watching The Desolation of Smaug, second Hobbit film, with a bunch of friends. And we're getting through the movie. I know the book, The Hobbit. And I'm looking at how this film is set up, and I'm going, oh God, it's gonna quit right before Lake Town. It's gonna quit right before Lake Town. Everyone's going, man, I can't wait to see him destroy Lake Town. I can't wait, I can't wait, I can't wait. Oh God, what have we done? Fade to black. Everyone else is going, come on! And I'm just sitting there going, because I knew it. And I just gave out, apparently in this dark theater, the most evil laugh anyone had ever heard. Because no one expected. There was also, of course, the time where the final Twilight movie. Now, I binge watched all the Twilight films just so that I could keep tracking because I was doing video reviews of the Twilight films. So I was going to see Breaking Dawn Part 2. I'm sitting there through the movie going, okay, this is boring. That joke was kind of funny. Boring, boring, boring. Whoa, this dude just got his head ripped off. Whoa, there's actual stakes. The characters might lose something. This is kind of fantastic. And dream sequence. It never actually happened. The movie's been out for a decade. If you wanted to be if you are afraid of spoilers, it's been 10 years. Get over it. I'm sorry. There's a moratorium on about a decade. If you haven't seen a film after 10 years, you're not trying to see that film.
Darth Vader's Luke's father.
Well,
Don't have a favorite character in Game of Thrones.
I might have reacted to the dream sequence in a rather improper manner in a completely filled theater that was silent for the entire time. As soon as flame goes, dream sequence. F you! I actually cussed out the screen. I stood up and screamed F you to the theater. And every dude in that theater, every girl looked at me like, oh. Every dude went, yes, yes, and laughed, and it was wonderful. I felt like I had touched a cultural capstone there. Now, it's not that critics are picky. Honestly, this is a myth that critics don't like anything. Critics don't like anything. My family doesn't like to watch movies with me because I always find something I don't like. It's just that I see so many films. I've seen it all before. Nothing really surprises me, except when it does. That surprised me. Anyone who's seen an Avengers movie will know what is. That was amazing to see at the time, and that honestly colored the entire perception of the film. However, I knew something like that was probably going to happen because there was a part 2. Because I knew that a part 2 was coming. And hey, the good guys can't win in part 1. Maybe they can, but they'll sort of only kind of win. Now, another great example of things to do, I'm just going to go back just a little bit to touch on this one. It might sound a little dry, a little boring, but sometimes reading books on film theory can actually be rather interesting. If you go to your local university, their bookstore in there, usually they'll have a film program, a film department. You can usually buy their textbooks there. I wouldn't recommend it. I still have all of my old textbooks and I never cracked the damn things in the book or in the actual classroom. So I would recommend if you want to buy like old nonfiction textbooks, buy them out of season and online. There are tons of cheaptextbooks.com, stuff like that. I don't know if that's the exact website, but something like that. You can usually look up the ISBN number, and then at that point, you can usually get them off for like 50, 60, out of season, maybe even 80% off. So they're only like 50 bucks. 80% off from 50 bucks. That's a scam. All right, so a lot of people might then go, okay, so if you watch a lot of films, you're always watching these, so like you're always, like you see so many things that nothing surprises you anymore. Doesn't that mean you'd lose the experience, the fun of watching a movie? And I can see to that degree, to some degree, but honestly, I think of it almost like a magic trick. And in fact, when I went in film school, that was one of the first things they ever told us, is that technically all film is, for example, is a magic trick. It's a bunch of still photographs that are passed by your eye so fast that it tricks your eye into thinking it's a moving image. There isn't actually anything moving in a film screen. It's all an illusion to kind of trick you. And so, as far as that goes, I've always sort of thought of it as being a critic is sort of like being in on the magic trick. You know how it's done, but at that point, you're not interested on the trick itself, but rather how well the trick is done, and that makes it much more entertaining. It's the reason Penn and Teller are so fun to watch as magicians, even though they literally show you how they do it. It's the skill at which they do it and the comedy that they use to show you how they do it is actually, they're sort of magic critics now that I think about it. That's an interesting way of thinking. I never thought about them like that, but it's sort of what they do. But
I heard in an interview with Penn, they didn't get Teller because he doesn't talk, that they didn't like magic at first because they just they knew how it worked, and that was really kind of the point.
right, I mean, it's that situation of it's about finding the joy in the act of creation rather than in the creation itself. You might not watch a film necessarily because, oh man, I love this particular story, even though I've seen it 15 billion times. A random farm boy from some small podunk town, planet, desert, whatever, goes in and finds that he's actually from an ancient long lineage of noble knights and has to defeat an evil empire. The movie? Star Wars. Yeah. These happen all the time. They're the same story. It's Joseph Campbell. You know, the
Hero's Journey?
The hero's journey. It's all over the place. And I know that there are some critics who go, overrated. It's not. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, and it's just the same movie over and over and over again. What you can appreciate at that point is how well it's done. You know, the original Star Wars movies are really well done. They're a great, like, the fourth and fifth movies are really, really well done. What? I'm sorry? Excuse me?
The Empire's greatest weakness is teddy bears.
Oh, yeah. I'm sending my most elite Imperial squadron. Beaten by Build-A-Bear. Okay. Now, 4 is practice. It's all great that you have the knowledge. It's all great that you're staying positive, but you can't talk worth a darn. You mumble when you speak. You tend to repeat your words. I have the exact same problem. I am actually a very anxious, nervous guy, and I stumble over my words a lot. I usually need people to play off of. You guys are all doing a wonderful job, by the way. Being able to properly and succinctly express yourself does a whole lot to persuade, because if you sound like you know what you're doing, if you sound like you know what you're doing. Even if you don't, usually that can go a long way towards convincing. Now, obviously, this is sort of a bad precedent because BS can only get you so far in criticism. Pretending to know what to do only lasts until you actually have to know what you're doing, at which point you either sink or swim. So that's where the experience, the learn, the try new things comes in. You can dazzle them with nonsense right up until you need the actual knowledge. Now, this does not mean that you need to be super wordy. You do not need to throw a thesaurus at your audience every time. I do, but that's because I like the thesaurus and I like sounding smart, and I kind of use big words anyway. You don't have to do that.
Big words are confusing.
Big words are confusing. Honestly, courtesy, just general discussion, and an earnest portrayal of your positions is just as intelligent sounding. You don't need to use the big, huge, fancy film term. Just say, I honestly enjoyed watching the visuals. They really, they made me feel these things. Taking your own experiences, expressing, this reminded me of the time where my dad and I went fishing one time, and it was great, and we had a wonderful time, and that really made me, that sort of thing will endear you to the people around you and make your positions feel more earnest. In a way, again, it's a dialogue, so you want to communicate, express yourself. Something went out for a second. You want to communicate and express yourself to your audience, and sometimes that means letting them in on your personal life. Not everything, obviously. There are some things which are very, very private, but letting them know about your own flaws, your own things, it humanizes you to your audience, whatever you're doing. And that goes a long way. That is so helpful towards getting people to listen to you. Again, if they're not going to listen, they won't do anything with your opinion. Now, I did this in film school by writing a lot. Every week, we'd have to write. Sometimes it would just be a page about a film. Oh my God. I honestly tried. I tried to be smart, I tried to be intelligent, but sometimes I would just, you know the college thesis thing of 300 words? So it's like, where you're just like, and verily thus I did now see, and you're repeating the same phrase over and over, and you're using the longest, biggest word because you want to get to that 1 page minimum, and it's 11 o'clock at night, and it's due in 10 minutes, and darn it, I don't actually like this movie, but I don't understand what it's talking about, but I have to pretend like I know what I'm talking about, and I need this grade, and gosh, I wish I just went into theater. I'm sorry, what?
Professors see right through that. You know that, right?
I know they see right through it. But honestly, the best thing on earth was that my professor was already had tenure. He didn't give a darn. He was a road sergeant.
So why bother you in the first place? Turn in something
Personal
decent.
pride, darn it.
Turn in something decent that's half as long.
Not if the requirement is a full page.
The professor doesn't care.
It's easier to grade something if you just look, oh, it didn't reach the page count, I'll just mark it wrong, as opposed to actually reading through it.
That's a big one.
And if you're a teacher with tenure who doesn't care, well, you're going to go with the easy option.
Don't critique my university experience, okay?
I went to Wright State as well, so actually it was Russ, right? Not Russ. He left, I think, the first year that I came in. I think he taught my whole history class.
The hippie guy with the kind of balding hippie guy?
I think that was it. I don't remember.
Yeah, I actually had, for him to get my degree, I actually had to write an 80-page paper on the history of American science fiction film. Because there weren't enough classes and my money was running out, so.
Well, the school's when it's right now. That's good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's a whole other thing. We could talk about that forever.
But the rest of the people here probably don't care about Wright State's financial woes.
Yeah, most of the people here probably don't care about Wright State's finances. Now, here's a nice line I can. If you want people to listen, practice giving them something worth listening to. I like that phrase. I'm glad I came up with it. When did I write? Oh, right. 9 o'clock last Saturday. I was tired. Sue me.
Okay.
No, don't sue me. I have no money. I honestly, between this and BronyCon, I'm eating ramen for the next 2 months. Now, how do we apply this to creation? Like, great. As a, now that you know these steps, how do you apply them in creation? Being more critically literate can help you expand your horizons when it comes to narrative and technical details. Like, as an artist, imagine trying to paint if you only know about 4 colors. Critical analysis of other works can help you effectively uncover more colors and enhance your own creation. If you know how other filmmakers or other musicians do this trick, you can learn it yourself and then try to apply it in your own work. And exploring and learning and identifying patterns in media and how to properly convey those patterns are really, really important because, there's the old adage of everything is a remake, everything is a remix. And that's sort of true. Like, honestly, it's not about making something original, it's about making something that's been done before with original elements in it, something that's unique and good, like unique and nice about it, or even just the quality of it. How well is it written? How well is it conceived? Now, in consumption, as a consumer, we live in an age where media is all about making money. And so a lot of filmmakers and a lot of production studios and record labels and publishing companies are all banking on the idea that you guys don't know what's good. They're all banking on you guys being idiots.
Michael Bay.
Yes.
Christian movies.
Yes. Well, that's honestly just a thing of bad budget and just.
God's Not Dead.
Yeah, God's Not
It's a
Dead.
horrible movie, had a great budget. My mother loves it because she doesn't understand why it's terrible.
Fair enough. I had to watch a political documentary with my dad once, and that was.
You got my sympathy.
It's not because it's, well, I'll let you.
Yeah. We can talk about it afterward. We're almost done. We got 9 minutes now. Now, to getting started, you could go to a film school, maybe take a writing course. If you don't have time or money, though, criticism is not exclusive. Honestly, just watch movies, practice writing, read everything you can get your hands on, watch behind-the-scenes featurettes, talk to creators about their inspirations. Just talk with people, start up dialogues. You want to hear their opinions, you want to be able to give your own. There is the conclusion and questions and story time. Any questions? And if anyone wants to hear fun stories. You in the front and then you behind.
Okay. Well, I have been proposing the idea of starting a YouTube channel with my nephew about, other cartoon shows the theme is Brony recommendations. It's like, hey, if you like My Little Pony, you might also like list of things.
Right. But you're wanting some advice on that, or like where to start?
Yeah. Because I think my problem is, I'm atrocious at spelling. I feel like if I wrote a script, it'd be like every 3 words. I gotta look that up. No, yeah.
Yeah, script writing is an art in and of itself. It's a thing that even I'm not all that good at. honestly, sometimes just off the cuff, genuine things to look at. As far as for the structure that you're looking at as your video, I recommend looking at Glass Reflection on YouTube. He's an anime reviewer.
Don't like him.
You don't like Glass?
Boring.
Well, okay. Well, his style is sort of similar, probably to what you're like. Possibly, is someone to at least look into to analyze his stuff, even if you're not
Yeah,
really a fan.
I'm not
of it.
really interested in like every possible version of one show. I don't care about the comparison between the Japanese and the English or whatever.
Well, you behind?
I gotta know what those 3 movies are.
I'm sorry?
Those
What are
3
the
movies,
movies?
gotta know.
All right, so the 3 movies are Avatar: The Last Airbender, or sorry, no, The Last Airbender by M. Night Shyamalan. Can't get those confused, cannot get those confused. Which, I love the original TV series. I had high hopes, got completely disappointed. It's one of the few movies that my family actually got our money back when we watched it. We don't do that. My family does not do that. We did it for that. My second is a movie most of you have probably never heard of. It's called Pendragon Pictures' The War of the Worlds. It came out right around the same time that the Steven Spielberg War of the Worlds came out. Except that it's made by one of those really, really cheap spoof kind of, like those really, really cheap British knockoff movie thing. Like those guys who make the movies that go into the bargain bin so that when your parents want to buy you a movie, but they don't actually know what it's called. So yeah, the movie with the fish thing. Yeah, here. I wanted Finding Nemo. This is Ninding Fimo. What the heck? You know, that sort of thing. That's sort of what Pendragon Pictures War of the World. It is so cheap. I honestly just call it running the movie because there was a solid 10-minute uncut shot of this dude in a suit walking down the British countryside. And you know what's really angering about that? That's actually the most accurate portrayal of the book. The original War of the Worlds is basically a road trip movie, or it's a road trip book. And the third movie remains to be the only movie that I ever watched in film school that I actively wish I had never seen. If I could go back in time and actually erase my memory of ever having seen it, I would. And I do not recommend anyone else here watching it. It is also a very, very mature movie. It is Catherine Briette's Romance. It is a French art house film basically about the sexual misadventures of a nymphomaniac. And it is not fun to watch at all. It is not good. I ran out of that when I was watching it. I ran out of that screening like the screen was on fire.
You know what I like about your list?
But
Not a single Ed Wood movie.
hey, yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. That's a good key. Is that quality is like the quality of the film is nothing to say on just the quality of my entertainment. Some of my favorite movies are dumb as hell. I love The Car. The Car is the evil killer car movies, kind of Christine, but this one came out in the 1970s. It's awesome. One of my other favorites is called.
You ever watch The Tire?
I have not seen The Tire. I've seen people talk about The Tire, but The Tire is almost legendary in its unwatchability at points. It's kind of like Birdemic. I don't know if anyone's actually ever seen Birdemic. They just know someone who's seen Birdemic.
Okay, does it count if I seen it watching with the riff tracks?
It does count because sometimes if you need to watch a film, just figure out any way it takes to watch a film. If you
So-
have to watch riff tracks.
So MST 3K is legit.
MST3K, they're a comedy sketch. They're a great way to get into it, and I've seen a bunch of stupid movies watching it with them, but they make it more enjoyable. They help enhance the experience for me. Because ultimately, that is the key to anything, is you want to have a good experience. One last question. You've already asked. I'm actually going to go to her. I will be afterwards, so you guys can talk to me if you want. Yep.
Would you say that an important thing to remember when making a critique is learning to detect when something is not done well versus this isn't my thing?
Yeah, honestly, it's sort of Crispy on Command actually has a great segment on this about, poking fun at people. Is you should never attack something that is outside of a person's control. If you're going to make a joke on someone, make a joke on a part of them that is not inherently ingrained in their character. And with films, there are lots of things that you have no control over. That you have to do it simply because you have no choice. And also understanding that for a lot of them, it's just a job. It's just a movie. It is not the end all be all. It's just a movie. Sometimes that is just the most important thing to remember. So this didn't ruin your childhood. It was 90 minutes long, and it's being remade because Disney has no more ideas left.
The Lion King?
No. Hey, my first living memory is The Lion King, so I'm a little attached. But I'm not gonna be mad at the I'm not gonna be mad at the I'm not gonna be mad at the CGI version of the. Why is it live action? The only thing living is the ground. The only thing real is the ground.
Maybe there's some boats already.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap us up here. Thank you guys for coming in. I will be around, so if you guys ever want to talk or ask things, I'm always available. I love seeing you guys chat, talk. Want me to sign things? I'm cool with that. Peace.